Welcome back to Nigel Presents Turok. Grouch, is that you? Who might you be then?
I am Turok!
Well, alright then.
Hate me, but it ain't no lie, baby. Bye, 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 bye. Oh, that was a good movie. What? I can't leave him alone for 1 second. Alley-oop. Okay. Whew. Still alive, Nigel? Alright, well, pull yourself back together. We got a show to do. Welcome back, y'all. Continuing with the Turok theme from the last video, we jumped from direct to video game.
That joke was terrible, Grouch.
Oh, come on, that joke was funny.
Not even remotely funny.
Bite me.
Do not tempt me. I haven't eaten in some time and my stomach is beginning to growl.
We're finally sitting down and talking about the games released by Iguana Entertainment, more specifically the Nightdive Remasters. Since Nightdive just released Turok 3 Shadows of Oblivion, now seems about as good a time as any. Now, in the last video, we covered Turok's humble origins all the way back in the 1930s in comic book form, going by Turok, Son of Stone, until the comic book was rebooted by Valiant Comics into Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. With a fresh coat of paint and a genre jump from fantasy to science fiction, Turok easily became one of Valiant's best-selling comic books. And after a time, Valiant was purchased by Acclaim intending to turn some of Valiant's titles into games for the N64. Now, the popular story is that a box of Valiant's comics were dumped on the head desk at the offices in Texas. Titles were picked at random. The titles selected were Turok, Shadowman, and Armor Marines. It's likely a load of BS due to Turok being Valiant's best-selling book at the time. It wasn't a character for Acclaim to seize an opportunity when they saw it. Now, Turok's first game was originally planned for release in 1996, but was pushed back 6 months, Acclaim refusing to release a game until all the bugs were fixed. Now, the game was released in 1997. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, was finally born. And still keeping the name and setting of the comics, one of the elements carried over was Turok was no longer the name of the main character. Turok was a mantle for the current Son of Stone who would travel the Lost Land fighting off evil, and only passing down that mantle through succession. So in each entry in the series, you can have a completely different person behind the mantle as long as they are part of the Fire Seed bloodline. For the first game, we step into the moccasins of Talset, as he portal jumps through the Lost Land to defeat the campaigner before he locates the Chronoscepter and conquers the Lost Land. Not that any of this is actually mentioned in game. The only clue we get is the brief opening, this little cutscene right here that more or less tells the player, get to the hub at the end of level 1. That's it. Like many first-person shooters at the time, Turok's story is relegated to the manual or the back of the box, which I happen to own. The unique thing that Acclaim did for Turok, instead of writing a couple pages of text, the story included is an actual comic. It's a nice touch considering Turok's background. Skimming through, we learned that Talset wasn't alone in it. Accompanying him is the next in line for the Turok mantle, Joshua Fireseed, who we see in the next game. And Talset is kind of using this whole journey as a training expedition for Joshua, and I kind of like the idea of how Joshua is overwhelmed by the whole thing, while Talset is sticking with the whole same shit different day routine. Now, Joshua being in the comic book explains why he's all over the promotional material for this game. He's on the cover, he's on the poster that was included with the original game, everything. But he's not the actual character you play in game. Nightdive thankfully changed this for the remaster cover art by putting Talset on the cover instead. A change I don't mind at all, since Talset is the character you actually play in the game. But moving on to the gameplay, it's pretty standard for an FPS. Run, strafe, and shoot anything that moves, with the addition of platform jumping, collecting these golden triangles called Life Force Diamonds. When you collect 100, you get an extra life, kind of like another platformer. But you'll also be grabbing level keys as you go. Completed sets will unlock new levels at the hub later down the road. The hub itself kind of reminds me of Stonehenge, but instead of famous stone archways, you have stargates. But the keys aren't the only thing you should be looking for. You will also have to keep a lookout for the chronoceptor pieces as well, the MacGuffin item mentioned in the story briefly. Each level has its own piece of the chronoceptor, but the chronoceptor itself is only accessible at the final boss fight unless you use cheats like I did when I was a kid. I can see why the campaigner wanted this thing. Now, if you collected all the keys in level 1, you unlock both level 2 and 3 respectively. Level 2 is just more or less level 1 part 2. Same mix of campaigner soldiers and poachers with the occasional dromaeosaur and purlin sprinkled in. Now, the purlin are giant rock monster guys that can hit like a goddamn truck. And clogging up the caves and tunnels, you got leapers, these homicider lemur assholes that just more or less get in your way. And then giant beetles. They didn't really think that much on that one, just giant beetles. You may have noticed with all the enemies I listed, I only named one dinosaur. Yeah, in a game named Turok Dinosaur Hunter, you won't be doing much dinosaur hunting. And sadly, this rings true for the whole game, with I think 4 actual dinosaur types. But the enemy variety leads into the idea that the Lost Land isn't just populated with dinosaurs, it's a universal dumping ground for everything from all over the cosmos. Dinosaur Hunter plays with this concept by opening random portals on each level that will lead you to a secret area full of health pickups and ammo. The variety of enemies does grow as change as you progress from level to level. Level 3 introduces the ancient warrior dudes, covered in skeleton body paint and blowguns that never seem to fucking miss. Even with these assholes, I kinda like this level. It's got a wide open area to zoom around, and to orbit around your enemies and shoot, you know, all that good stuff. It does have its fair share of environmental puzzles though, with one of the most tedious platforming sections in the game. Taking the most direct path will lead you out the exit quick enough, but if you take a left here and jump all the way down and make a leap of faith, you will find this level's piece of the chronoceptor. And this does illustrate how you should be playing this game, literally scouring every inch of the map to find what you need. The level ends with our first boss fight, the Long Hunter. He has a pretty in-depth lore in the comics, but here he's just the head of the poacher enemies. Now his boss fight is pretty standard, but he can call in these jeeps into the arena, and if they hit you once, they're going to keep spamming you over and over until you die. Now the Long Hunter himself, he has a pulse gun and these explosive boomerang things. If you strafe him and shoot him, you pretty much got him. Now level 4 actually operates a little differently from the rest, simply titled The Ruins. After taking a detour around the opening of the levels, that being the last level key in the shape of a sun, nice touch, you walk out into the main level and see the exit portal to your left, with the rest of the level spread out across the map for you to explore however you want. This is the only level that does this. Most of the game has a single direction to go. They're mostly non-linear, but the map still progresses in a forward direction, with a starting line and a finish line. This level shows you the finish line, but this lets you decide when you're done. And the level does introduce one of the few other dinosaur types in the game, the Dimetrodon, this thing. I know what it is, but I can't pronounce the damn name. Now in this game, for some reason, he has spikes instead of a dorsal sail, but it's much appreciated to see him in a game. The other enemies introduced are the High Priest throwing lightning and fire at the player, and an alien giving further notion to the idea that Turok's enemy lineup may be a bit unfocused. Yeah. Now progressing to level 5, the Catacombs, arguably my most disliked level in the game, complete with backtracking, irritating maze structure, and a level design that'll make you want to read Sutter Kane. All the way through this level you'll be looking at the same looking corridors with the occasional break in the section taking place outside, but most of the time you will be exploring this with the map on. And I'm going to be completely honest, it's not the most confusing level in the game. Level 8 is far more confusing than this one. Turok 2 has 2 levels that run circles around this one. Level 5 is just more tedious than anything else. All the backtracking to get the keys and chronoceptor piece, plus the severe lack of new enemies makes this level more of a bore to get through. But to be fair, it does offer some cool segments, like a purling breaking through walls, booby traps complete with Indiana Jones references. And the level ends with a Mantis boss fight, which has some connection to the next game, or at least in my opinion it does. Level 6, the village in the treetop, we return back to formula with jungle, more campaigner soldiers, and the same type of enemies that we've been exposed to, with the exception of the dinosaur, now sporting machine guns on his back. Nice touch. We also have a return of the aliens we got a glimpse of back in level 4, this time with more abundance. The gimmick of this level is the many leaps of faith you will be having to take to progress through it. Good thing Talset doesn't take fall damage. And that's really all worthy of note here, other than exploring this Ewok looking village. Just grab the Chronoceptor piece and the keys and get out. Level 7 and 8 work as two-parters like level 1 and 2 did. Level 7, simply titled The Lost Land, is where the kid gloves come off and the game literally throws everything but the kitchen sink at you. Or maybe it does. Maybe one of these mechs has a kitchen sink feature if you press it in the crotch or something. You have destroyed me. Would you like to wash your hands? Please press button for service. Including the mech, you get cyborg dromaeosaurs, dudes riding triceratops, complete with mounted rocket launchers, and these guys called demons throwing out hadokens. You got killer plants, and the aliens from earlier coming back with a vengeance this time, zooming up in the air if they take too much damage and coming back down behind you. And I like that the level actually drops out the jungle environment for a volcanic wasteland. But as you progress this level, towards the end, you start to see chunks at the next level, the campaigner's fortress. Now, as soon as you enter this level, you are met with nothing but turrets on the side of the wall just shooting at you. It's just best to make a beeline for the sewers and keep going. Now, working your way through the sewers, you see these new enemy types. They're just palette swaps of all the enemies you've seen before. They're just robots now. Now, coming out of the sewers, you go into the core and finally into more of a sleek, stylized upper level. Each section changing color palettes and enemy types as you progress. And boy, the difficulty is still on full display. All the enemy factions gunning for a chance to get a shot in, but if you're lucky enough, you can trigger some infighting between them. And it's a spectacle to see. Alright, I got money on the small guy.
Not chance, the robot has it in the bag that the last time I wager on something clearly made with cheap materials.
And after you finally make it to the top, you square off with the third boss in the game. The campaigner's pet cyborg T-Rex, Thunder. It probably sounded cooler on paper. Thunder is a pretty fun boss to fight. He's got a laser eye and a ground stop with some fire breath to keep you on your toes. And if he beats you, there's this nice little animation similar to what you'd see at a Crash Bandicoot. Now the best weapons to use for this fight are the fusion cannon, rocket launcher, and the minigun. Everything else is kind of a waste or doesn't even register. Now you can get some extra shots in with the auto shotgun and explosive ammo. If you got regular ammo, don't even bother. But with some strafe shooting and some well-timed jumps, you will successfully take out Thunder.
Thundercats!
Of course, this is assuming your game doesn't glitch like mine did. Yeah, but what the... What? Did I just get Uno reversed? That's some bullshit, man. Is that the only reason we have a knife so Talset can do that? I have used the knife once since I started playing. Immediately after the fight with Thunder. We've done that joke. We are transported in front of the final Chronoceptor piece, and it's all together. That is, if you've been collecting them up to this point. A short walk down the ramp to another warp point, and here we are, the campaigner?
You suck!
If you have the Chronoceptor, you can end this fight in 3 shots, depending on the difficulty. But if not, it's going to take most of your inventory just to chip away at this guy's health. One of the neat things about this boss fight, as his health decreases, he shows battle damage, revealing his metal skeleton underneath. It's a nice little Easter egg touch there. Can't think of what movie though. One final shot and the campaigner is down for good. And that was Turok Dinosaur Hunter. It's actually a pretty good game. It's not my favorite of the three, but it is one of my favorite N64 games, the Arsenal itself being one of the driving ports. It's mostly what you expect from an FPS of this time. You get a knife you'll never use, a bow with regular and explosive arrows, 2 different shotguns, a pump action and an auto shotgun, again with 2 types of ammo, regular and explosive. You get a rifle, a minigun, a rocket launcher, and a pulse rifle. Now, the next gun is interesting, the particle accelerator. It freezes enemies in place, and after a while they explode. Depending on how long you charge it, it could take out 2 or 3 enemies at the same time, if they're close enough. Due to it sharing ammo with the pulse rifle, a much more useful weapon, it's not worth using much, plus it doesn't register with bosses. Next, the alien weapon. It shoots out a projectile and explodes after a second. It's mostly situational. It's good against slow or stationary enemies, but an enemy with any kind of speed and you're wasting your time. And finally, the fusion cannon, this game's version of the BFG. It's mostly self-explanatory. Another driving point is the music. The composer Darren Mitchell made an awesome soundtrack with this, mixing synth with drums. One of the best examples is, ironically, level 5. Not exactly my favorite level, but it does have one of my favorite tracks in the game. Time, this was one of the best FPSs on the X64 until, GoldenEye came out a couple months later. Damn you, GoldenEye, with your good level structure, gunplay, and awesome menu music. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll have a talk with him. Now, interesting enough, Claim having enough foresight was already in development of a second game, originally planned for 1997, but held back its release date just like its previous title. But after the wait, the second game was released. Now, unlike the previous title, Turok 2 opens up with a cutscene. And this cutscene did more than open the game. It began puberty for me.
Oh, yeah.
The alien waifu on screen is Adon, a woman tasked with helping the current Turok, Joshua Fireseed, on his quest to stop the Primogen from destroying the 5 energy totems scattered throughout the game, keeping him imprisoned in the light ship somewhere in the middle of the Lost Land. If he succeeds in destroying the totems, the resulting blast will destroy the universe. We then get a briefing on what to do and expect for the first level. We get objectives along with the standard key hunt routine, rescuing children, activating beacons, and
locate the energy totem and defend it at all costs.
yeah, that. We are then dropped in the port of Idea, a coastal city under siege from the Dinosaur Army, the new bad guys in the game. And even though each level has its own enemy lineup, the dinosaurs are recurring bad guys who work for the Primogen and serve as his main forces and will be seen on most levels aside from the last. Adon describes these guys as genetically engineered dinosaur hybrids, for this game at least. Later in the franchise, these dudes crop back up, but instead of genetic warriors, they're just the end result of dinosaurs evolving over millions of years in the Lost Land, their ancestors dodging that fateful meteor extinction event. You can go with either explanation, but I like to mix both of them together. The dinosaurs are engineered warriors, but are designed by other sentient dinosaurs. Even though this will kill the dinosaurs in the process, it's just one final fuck you to humanity. And Adon even alludes to this in her briefing.
They are utterly evil and very dangerous. Though they do the Primogen's bidding, the dinosaurs have a more sinister and personal agenda of their own, to see humankind wiped from the face of the earth.
The two variants seen in the game are the Endrails, basic infantry armed with pulse cannons and grenades, the Raptoids, more or less berserkers of the game, charging or ambushing you to get a few licks in before they go down. They're both accompanied by the regular Raptors, playing a similar role just with less kung fu. As you progress through the port completing objectives and shooting bad guys, you're introduced to Turok 2's new gore system. Shotgun blasts and other weapons and red stuff flying every which way. Turok 1 had blood, but 2 comes with dismemberment and decapitations and gallons of blood spraying everywhere, and sometimes all at once. But what you're seeing is the Nightdive version. The gore was present in the N64, but not to this level. Nightdive amped it all up and it just sprays everywhere. It's like everybody has tomatoes shoved underneath their arms. I love it. Seeds of Evil tries something different for its level designs, dropping the jungle for more detailed level environmental storytelling. Port of Idea, for example, is portrayed as a trade hub of sorts for a civilized portion of Lost Land. It's got waterways, shipyards, a city center with temples, and security checkpoints with lever-operated doorways, all of which were decimated by the dinosaur invasion. However, you won't be seeing many Lost Landers aside from those creepy kids you save and the piles of military corpses all over the place. Once you get to the middle level, you come across a portal, transporting Josh to a ritual area that if you bring a sacred eagle feather to, Josh will be granted a talisman from a former Turok, giving him an ability to access Primogen Key. Now each level has its own feather and a corresponding portal on a different level, so there's going to be some backtracking involved. Now I didn't say Turok 2 was perfect. In addition to the ritual portals, you also have false portals called Oblivion portals that introduce these guys.
Cease, human! Powers beyond the comprehension of flesh have been set in motion. The Primogen must not be stopped. The totems must fall. The balance must falter. Chaos must commence. We are the darkness. We are the unseen. We are Oblivion. That which has been set in motion cannot be stopped. Your deeds, your life, your very existence falls under the great shadow of Oblivion. Your failure is inevitable.
I can't understand you. Speak clearly, damn it! At large, this has little to do with the Primogen, but more to do with the entire series as a whole, which you'll get into more in the next game. These gates also have pieces of the game's BFG similar to how the Chronoceptor was in the previous game, just with less importance and no MacGuffin tie-ins to the story. Once you get all the shit done and make it out to the end of the level, you defend the totem from the dinosaurs. Piece of advice. You see those explosive shells over there? Switch to shotgun and start introducing all these assholes to extinction.
Mission accomplished.
After Dino Judgment Day, you're introduced to this game's hub, and like the previous game, you can only access the various levels with complete sets of keys. And off the bat, you have access to level 2 and 3, the River of Souls and Death Marshes. The River of Souls starts off pretty action-packed, traveling through no man's land on the back of a Styracosaurus wielding rocket launchers and a machine gun. Die, 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 you assholes! What?
Am I not being so gleeful in the massacring of our fictional dinosaurid brethren?
Are they from Louisiana?
Well, no.
Alright then, fuck them. The objectives for level 2 are to destroy 2 soul gates, kill these horny ladies over here, and
Locate the energy totem and defend it at all costs.
that. And the gimmick for the level is the water that runs through the level is so poisonous that if you even dip a pinky toe in it, groundhogs will be bringing you tomorrow's mail. This is that environmental storytelling I was talking about earlier. The level has a theme of death and resurrection. Before the events of the game, the city inside the level was a flourishing center, but then the river became poisonous and killed half the population. After you enter the city, you come across these soul gates constructed near crypts and graveyards and the Sisters of Despair residing nearby. I didn't name them, the game did. From my observation, the gates were activated in an attempt to bring people back that died, but instead they opened the gate to hell and Sisters were just leading the charge. While the city was on the back foot from the event horizon, the dinosaurs invaded and took advantage of the situation. Or that's my take anyway. All in all, the level's pretty good. It opens with a bang and ends with fighting in the streets. The most it will ask from you puzzle-wise is grab a key, use it here, go here, flip that lever. That's pretty much it. Nothing brain-busting. It does bring spiders into the mix, which is always annoying, but nowhere near as bad as later down the road. Ooh. Moving on to the Death Marshes, we tie into a group from the first game, the Perlin, those rock monster dudes that can punch you in the next Tuesday. Here they're a little bit more organized and better armed. The explanation is the Primogen armed these guys better to try to take out Joshua and plans to betray them and wipe them out, trying to get rid of two troublesome groups at the same time. The objectives here are to save a couple of dodos who got captured, destroy some ammo dumps, and
Locate the energy totem and defend it at all costs.
that. Level 3 is actually the most straightforward out of the whole bunch. Just progress forward, get your shit, and get out. Nothing real noteworthy here, well, except for the weapons. Level 3 is where you get arguably some of the best weapons in the game. 2 words, Mag 60. Now, having played this game so many times, I have some words of wisdom. At the beginning of the game, after beating level 1, instead of progressing to level 2, go to level 3 instead. Complete it as normal, but be sure to grab that Sacred Eagle Feather. The Talisman Portal at the end of level 2 allows you to swim in the toxic water. The Eagle Feather in level 3 is what completes that. And looky what's right outside that portal. Go ahead and use the feather, grab the key, and start your Primogen key hunt early. The Primogen gate being in the center of the hub right here. Plus, it's amusing to play through level 2 with the Mag 60 and Shredder. Moving on to level 4, Lair of the Blind Ones, which is anything but simple. Introducing these subterranean guys called the Blind Ones. Adon doesn't say if these guys are working with a Primogen or if they're just doing their own thing. She does say they're preying on the people of Lost Land, but between the dinosaurs and everything else, what doesn't prey on these people? No objective other than
Locate the energy totem and defend it at all costs.
that is to seal some thermal vents while trapping these assholes underground. With the simple objective and the simplicity of the last level, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is a cakewalk. But without sugarcoating it, level 4 is, how can I put it? It is by far the most hated level in the entire Turok series, and that's saying a lot. From the things like structure of the tunnels, the enemy types. If you don't like spiders, this is going to be your worst nightmare. Jesus! All the way to the misleading simple objective. It's not simple at all. You don't just seal the vents. First, you need to find the satchel charges scattered around the level. Some are close to the vents, others are out of the way or further down the corridor, making you backtrack. And also, some of the vents you can't access unless you have the keys to open up these gates. It doesn't help if you're not paying close enough attention because some asshole is shooting at you from the other direction. You can pass up a tunnel leading to one of these vents. As a kid, this level infuriated me to no end. The map did help me, but it didn't have markers for the satchel charges or the keys like the remaster does. As an adult, it's still a pain in the ass. My first time playing this game in years, I got everything done except for I missed one satchel charge toward the end of the level. If that doesn't tell you how much of a pain in the ass this level is, I don't know what to tell you. But on a positive note, it does give you the most entertaining gun in the game, Cerebral Bore. God, I love this gun. What this gun does is it sends out a homing drone that locks onto intelligent life forms and bores out their brain. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But on another negative note, it does give you the most boring gun in the game, the charged dart rifle.
One eternity later.
Bored now. You can also get the Firestorm early, which is loads of fun, but I go with the Boar when I can. The level ends with a fight against an Eldritch Horror you beat by shooting tentacles and a couple of orifices. Yeah, shoot those and perform LASIK surgery like you work at Walmart. Don't bleed!
He slimed me.
Following the subterranean hellscape that is the Lair of the Blind Ones, we have the Hive of Mantids, another group working for the Primogen, their objective hitting a little closer to home.
To this end, the Primogen has persuaded the Mantids to help free him by promising to give them ripe new worlds to infest. The first world on their list is Earth. Rift gates are being ready to transport an army of Mantid soldiers to your world. Destroying the master computer will render the rift gates useless.
Now this is purely speculation on my part. I think this group is the same alien dudes that we saw from the first game, and the boss in the catacombs was the Mantid Queen they were searching for. Purely speculation on my part, none of this being confirmed, but fan speculation is half the fun with these games. A trip down more sci-fi territory, the Hive is nowhere near as rage-inducing as the previous level. Problem is, it's just long. The level is separated into two parts by the most blatant Easter egg in this game. Maybe that Event Horizon joke wasn't too far off. At the beginning of the level is the opening chambers for all the drones and warriors, while the inner sanctum is where the queen and the larva chambers are. The first section is the most action-packed, plus it's the first time you will get your hands on the scorpion launcher. But those damn turrets tucked away in the corners, they can kiss my ass. It doesn't help that all the objectives for this level are located on the back end. I feel if these objectives were more properly spaced, like one or two being toward the front of the level, with the rest being toward the end, it wouldn't feel as lopsided and tedious. You'd feel a simple sense of accomplishment as you got toward the end instead of just trudging through. After killing all the queens, destroying the master computer, and...
Locate the energy totem and defend it at all costs.
we are treated to another boss fight, the Hive Queen. Unlike her objective counterpart, this one is less of a sitting duck. Shoot her dead and move on to the final level, the Primogen's light ship. Still kind of where the fuck do you go level. It's pretty intuitive if you pay attention. The light ship sends you off through 4 different circuits, each getting unlocked as you complete the previous route, and the Primogen key acting as a landmark. Now down each corridor you'll have a power station pumping out toxic waste, aka the River of Souls. The very same stuff you were jumping on level 2 comes from here, tying level 2 and level 6 together. When you reach the stations, you place blue crystals you find along the way to purify the waste, each station being represented by a lock on the Primogen key. If it's still green, turn back around and go back the way it's pointing like I had to. The other objective is to destroy the assembly plants located down a single corridor. Yeah, that's right, this is the only level that does not have dinosaurs in it. Instead, it has these biobot assholes the ship is making and these angry rosy robot things.
I may be homely, Buster, but I'm S-M-A-R-T smart.
To destroy the assembly plant, just put this there, pull this out, and make this go boom. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Oh yeah, that's right, there's no totem on this level. Cool. As far as levels go, it's pretty good. Not frustrating like Lair of the Blind Ones or long-winded like Hive of Mantids. There's a decent challenge here, and the level doesn't make you want to read Sutter Kane. And also, if you've been collecting the parts, you get access to the newcomers level, with the final Oblivion portal being accessed toward the end. It's not bad, but a good BFG, it really isn't. Not what I expect when I think new. It's more or less the beefed up version of Particle Accelerator. The difference is this one's more reliable and does actual boss damage.
A few moments later.
After completing the light ship, we tie into it with the boss of this level, fat ass simply titled Mother. another one of Oblivion's flunkies, here to act as a final defense for the Primogen. As bosses go, she is the toughest in the game, complete with 3 different phases. Lardass also regenerates different parts and even evolves sections to fight you with. Spiders. Why did it have to be spiders? The fight ends with the stalemate, Joshua giving the "don't fuck with me" stare. And finally, we get to the last part. With all the levels beaten, if you've been collecting the eagle feathers, it is key hunt time. Most of the keys either being placed toward the end or middle of the levels, with only one close to the beginning. Ironically being Lair of the Blind Ones. A godsend back in the day, more on that later. After the great key hunt, we get access to the final boss, the big Primogen boy himself. Now, who is the Primogen, you may be asking? That's actually a tricky question, depending on which version you're going with. If you're going by the comic book version, the Primogen is more of a misguided character with a sympathetic backstory. You see, the Primogen was a scientist in another universe who tried to travel back in time to see the creation of his own universe, but unintentionally destroyed it in the process. His ship getting suspended in a subspace bubble of sorts, creating rifts and portals, acting like a magnet, trapping different things from the universe until it forms its own world, the Lost Land. And this explains why the Lost Land is so unstable, with portals popping up all over the place, the light ship itself kind of working as a linchpin holding the whole mess together. If the Primogen breaks his containment and escapes, with no anchor being there, everything goes poof. But that's where the differences change. In the game, it's night and day. He betrays his allies and even puts a failsafe in place in case he dies.
The Primogen's lightship is completely self-sufficient and can supply itself with an army of biobots manufactured deep within the superstructure. In the event that the Primogen is defeated, the biobots have been programmed to exit the lightship and eradicate intelligent life from the face of the Lost Land as one last twisted act of revenge by the Primogen.
Crucial reason why that assembly plant on his ship must be destroyed. So you shoot him dead, get an end cutscene, assuming you defended all the totems and did not cheat, you'll get the true ending. Watching the asshole get erased from existence by the very things he wanted to destroy. Somewhat poetic. The other ending is a little bit more vague. Even though you destroy his body, the Primogen's mind is still alive, but still trapped in the arena you're just in. It really doesn't make a difference. You still kicked his ass, and he can't affect the outside world anymore. Or so you still won. Wait, alright, what's the pretty lady saying?
I have been unable to identify the force which conspired against you during your battle with the Primogen. Its form eluded me. While I searched, a feeling of dread washed over me. A feeling unlike any that I have ever experienced. There is a natural balance in the cosmos between that which we define as good and that which we know as evil, light and dark, order and chaos. Although I have been unable to gain any specific knowledge of this being, its energy signature feels as if it exists beyond either fundamental force. And one other thing, Joshua. Each time I scanned this entity's signature, I also detected the energies of the Turok lineage as well. Whatever it is, your ancestors have dealt with it before.
That's right, those Oblivion dudes. They weren't just a mere side plot. They were there to set up the next game. That title makes a little bit more sense now. But that's Turok Seeds of Evil. I won't lie, I love this game. It's my favorite out of the whole series. The gunplay, the gore, the world building, not so much the level design. The lore dumps before each level, even the music is top notch in this game. Composed again by Darren Mitchell, Mitchell takes what he had in the first game and ramps it up to 11, making the soundtrack for each level feel different and unique. By far the best track in the game is the opening track, reused for River of Souls. You listen to this and tell me it doesn't get you ready to kick somebody's ass. But to be fair, it does have its issues. One of the many praises I hear for Turok, I'm a bit on the fence on. Turok 2 is heralded as the gun porn game with one of the best loadouts on the N64. It's true, there are some kick-ass guns in this game. You got the tech bow with the standard arrows and the tech arrows, which work pretty good, but it also has sniper capability. One of the best shotguns in all of gaming, and not only are the shells pretty good, but the explosive shells are pièce de résistance. Pulse rifle is pretty much what it is. Single shot, but it's also got sniper capability just like the tech bow. The Firestorm Cannon, which is always loads of fun, this game's version of the minigun. The Scorpion Launcher, a rocket launcher that shoots out 3 homing missiles. Whatever you aim this at is going to die, no matter what you do. You also have the Shredder, not that Shredder. The regular shot shoots out a beam that splits when it hits something and just keeps ricocheting off the walls, while the explosive one just shoots out a single beam that ricochets off the walls and creates several explosions. It's all kinds of handy. And of course you got the grenade launcher, can't forget about Old Faithful here. And then the cerebral bore. Yeah, don't need much explaining there. God, I love that gun. All these weapons earned their place in the Hall of Fame for the N64. There are their fair share of duds. One of the useless weapons is the Sunflare Pod. In Lair of the Blind Ones, when you throw this, it instant kills all the blind ones, but in any other level, it just blinds them, so it makes it more of a utility item. The Tranquilizer and Charge Dart rifles are all but useless. Why would you want to put anything to sleep in this game? You can't go on a non-lethal run, you need to kill the bosses to progress, and you don't get the Trank gun until level 2 anyway. All those guys you shot before don't count? I'm sorry, that don't work. And the Charge Dart rifle, it just holds them in place. It does a small amount of damage over time, but at the same time you could wait for these dudes to die, you could just use a regular weapon and been on your merry way. The PM layer is situational. It's good for little varmints running around the ground, but anything else, it's kind of a waste.
A few inches later.
The guns used underwater, they only come into play for 2 levels, and the only one worth using is the jet to move faster. The rest of them are inconsequential. And then you got the replaceable weapons, like the bow, which gets replaced by the tech bow, the pistol gets replaced by the Mag 60, and the talon gets replaced by the Warblade. Once you find the better options, you will never use the inferior versions again. They're just there to take up space, so why bother? And I've already said my piece on the nuke. As a BFG, it sucks. Fusion Cannon and Chronoceptor from the previous game, they walk circles around this thing. Back to a high note, but Turok 2 also supported a split-screen multiplayer with a whole bunch of modes. And thankfully Nightdive got them up and running on Steam. And I didn't have time to get a match going, but it's probably something I'll try in the future, because me and my sister had loads of fun with this thing when we were kids. Now since we're talking about Turok 2's multiplayer, Iguana did make a game that was exclusively multiplayer, because at the time you had Unreal, Quake, all going multiplayer. And Iguana's answer to this was Turok Rage Wars, which was pretty much a Quake clone. It really didn't have a single player mode. It had a campaign that you could progress by yourself, but you were just playing the multiplayer mode with bots. It wasn't bad, but it's something that you played with friends. I was surprised when Iguana came out with this thing, because the thing that Quake and Unreal had was an internet connection, and that's what kept those games alive. This, if you didn't have any friends, this thing sat on your shelf to die. I mean, you drag it out every once in a while if you got bored, but it was a multiplayer game. It's something that you did with others. Moving on from Seeds of Evil to Shadows of Oblivion. Now, apparently, I'm not alone in this, but for the longest time, I didn't know anything about this game. I played every installment, and I mean every installment. I hate you. You piece of junk. But this one slipped right by me. It may have had something to do with the late release in the N64's life cycle, or maybe the poor marketing. Who knows? But thankfully, about 10 years ago, I found this game tucked away in the back of a GameStop. And I picked it up, took it home, played it, and it was, well, it was okay. Let me explain. The game opens up with a cutscene, just like the previous one, but a rather long cutscene. with Joshua breaking into a facility trying to rescue a kid. The jailbreak gets foiled and Josh kinda takes one to the head. It was but a dream. I hate those tropes. Josh goes out to sit on the porch and try to make sense of his dream, and we're introduced to Danielle Fireseed, Joshua's older sister. They sit and discuss the dream, trying to make sense of everything, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up, but at the time this was pretty good facial animation on the N64. Even rivaling what we saw in Ocarina of Time. Most of the shooters on the console had static faces, can never change. GoldenEye did this, Perfect Dark did this, Quake did this, all of them were guilty, but Turok 3 really took it above and beyond just to show what they were capable of doing. So, point granted, Turok 3. The two continue their discussion, Josh brooding while Danielle tries to open up about her husband's death, and that's when Josh goes all Kyle Reese on.
Why won't you let me help you?
The child.
What?
The child is the key, Danielle.
I don't understand, Josh.
I don't expect you to. I'm not sure I understand myself, not completely. All I know is that the child is the key.
Josh explains how the Turok lineage must go on, and that's the only thing that stands in the way of Oblivion. I wonder if that's foreshadowing anything. Flash forward a couple hours, and everybody's asleep, except for these assholes.
You're too loud.
The fight goes the way you expect until Josh gets shot off the stairs. He's still good, right? He'll make it. And what?
Leave you here. Not much choice, little brother. Go on.
We love you, Josh.
Josh died? Things are looking kind of grim, and Danielle and the youngest brother, Joseph, oh yeah, this guy. I forgot to mention this little pipsqueak. Joseph is the youngest of the three, and is more or less just a de-aged version of Josh from Seeds of Evil. They make it down the road until they get brake checked by Perlin, getting saved by future Xena.
Come with me.
This is Adon for Turok 3. Not bad, she's sporting more hardware than her previous incarnation, and apparently she went and got a tan. She brings the fire seeds before the group she's been working for, called the Council of Voices. And it's not what I was expecting. I was thinking more of the Senate from Star Wars or the Council from Neverending Story, not Machine Head.
Silence!
The Council requires someone to take up the mantle from Turok. The game leaves it to the player to decide who picks up the mantle, which is a nice touch. Let's see, who do I choose? I choose Danielle. Nothing against Joseph, but he kind of felt wedged in. He got introduced out of nowhere, and he's been whining ever since. So yeah, I'm picking the lady. And we finally get to play the game, and it's different. One of the main differences, the weapon loadouts. Instead of a giant arsenal of weapons, the loadouts are divided between Danielle and Joseph. Danielle has access to the heavier weapons and can take more damage, fulfilling the traditional run and gun nature of the previous Turoks. She also has access to a grappling hook to close wide gaps and cut across buildings, while Joseph leans more to the stealthier option. He has access to the sniper rifle and night vision goggles. You'll use these a handful of times and forget you even have them. The first level, I guess, is a city close to where they live. It's under siege by Oblivion's forces, going all in on the Lovecraftian horror, complete with sky tentacles and everything. But as you move through the game, it doesn't feel like Turok. If anything, it feels like Half-Life, with the zombies and the mutants and even the gunplay, for example. Yeah, it doesn't feel like Turok. It's obviously Iguana borrowed some ideas from Half-Life, which came out in 1998. The borrowing doesn't end there, and not just from Iguana. As you progress through the opening level, you see these streets blocked off by these walking mechs and police that almost feel like City 17 from Half-Life 2, which came out in 2004, 4 years after this game came out. Coincidence? Maybe. Apparently Nightdive came to the same conclusion that we do. In the building you start the level in, down in the lobby, there's a plaque. In the original it was just garbled text, but here it actually says something. Nice. Fighting through these city streets and seeing even more Half-Life Easter eggs, we get a timed mission a toddler can beat. Just shoot everything and stop the train from crashing. Climb up out of the hole, go up the building, shoot this Muppet, and beat the level. If you think I left anything out, I really didn't. Turok ditches the non-linear approach to the maps the previous game had and streamlines everything, making this more of a corridor shooter than a maze hunt. Now I have a theory on why they went with this approach, and I'll bring it up later. After the Muppet Massacre, we go through the portal and land in the middle of a military base. I thought we were going to the Lost Land. All the way through the last level, Daniel said, we're going to defeat Oblivion, we're going to defeat Oblivion. So why are we in a generic army base? I don't know, maybe next level. I'm mostly joking here, but we are playing Turok, right? Again, this feels like Half-Life, almost like it was lifted right out of surface tension. It does get better though, coming across these slug monsters burrowing their way from the bottom of the base, wrapping it all up with a fight with One-Eyed Willie here. There, finally, beating. Now will we get explanation?
Adon, what is this all about? You haven't told us anything about what we're doing here or why Josh was killed.
Thank you!
Oblivion thing even is.
You're right. Where to begin? 2 years ago, Joshua was attacked by an entity that identified itself only as Oblivion. No other being like it has ever existed. A massive life form capable of devouring worlds, of rendering entire planets lifeless and barren.
Great swiggity swatty swooty, look at that cutie's booty.
Grouch, don't be creepy.
I can't help it, look at it! It looks a lot better than it did in the N64.
Yes, it is a fantastic ass, but at the end of the day, it's a mass of pixels. Please control yourself.
Jumping through the portal, we finally make it to the Lost Land, or at least I think it's the Lost Land. As far as I know, it could be New Orleans. Not really changing my mind, gang. It could still be New Orleans. Plenty of fiends down here look just like this dude. Okay, I take it, we're in the Lost Land. Jokes aside, this is actually a pretty interesting level. It takes place in an area that isn't particularly stable in the Lost Land. It's pretty common for stuff to leak through from other worlds like cars, planes, and even entire buildings. And sometimes regular people will fall through as well, just to get abducted by these mutant guys. Apart from fighting the mutants, we finally get to fight some dinosaurs, and a couple of purlins. Finally, it feels like a Turok game. It took a couple levels, but hey, better late than never.
Grouch, you know those are the only dinosaurs in the game.
What do you mean these are the only dinosaurs in the game? You're full of shit's what it is. There's got to be more dinosaurs than this.
Jackass.
The level ends with a boss fight with a cybernetic snail. The goal is to lock off these 4 outer exits and force him to the center and turn him into escargot. And after the fight ends, we drop into a familiar environment. Like, really familiar. Okay, you got me, game. I've been bitching and moaning about this game not feeling like Turok, and then it just has a recreation of the first level of Dinosaur Hunter. Okay, bravo. Bravo. We get another boss fight with another gimmick. This time, if you run his health down, he'll stop and regain. And it sounds like he's overly constipated. Dude. The only way to end him, though, is to get him to regenerate over this trap door, flip the switch, and turn him into Bosch Kebab. After the Boss Kebab, we actually see some pretty unique environments fighting these guys we saw all the way back in Turok Dinosaur Hunter. A couple of puzzles here and there, and then we finally get to the gap with a pyramid off to the right over here. Opening up, we see a new enemy for a second, Oblivion Priest. At least we know we're going in the right direction. Progressing down the pyramid, we see more familiar faces, the hotheads from the previous game. And I actually like these guys, but I kind of wish we saw a dinosaur or two come back instead. As we make our way down the lava chamber, going up and down these air chutes, we make it to another boss fight with another gimmick. God damn it. All you gotta do is keep the butt plug in the hole and make sure the chamber doesn't fill full of lava. I mean, there is an added challenge to make sure the lava guys don't knock out the butt plug. Just use the board to buy you some time and you got the bag out licked. You grab the key, make your way back up to the surface, and unlock the gate, and we finally get to Oblivion's headquarters, or at least the opening gate.
The sons of stone will fail. The child will die. Chaos will commence.
Who are you?
We are the sons and daughters of darkness. We are the children of Oblivion.
You're helping it?
We are part of it. We were ancient before the birth of your insignificant universe. Once the darkness that is Oblivion destroyed all that stood before it, we devoured entire worlds, fed upon the suffering, reveled in the glory of our omnipotence. The birth of this universe nearly destroyed us. Now, the time of our return has come. Oblivion is at hand.
Fighting our way through the opening domain, we finally make it to the portal, and we get to Oblivion's real headquarters. The domain changing as you move forward, the opening feeling more like a temple, progressing into a mine, and finally the industrial area we saw in the previous game and through the Oblivion gates. And I actually like this level. It forks out into different paths like the previous games did. The more explored, the more ammo and weapons that you get, and you finally get the PSG of this game. On every level, there's a single part. If you collect them all, blah, 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 you know where I'm going. After exploring everything, we finally make it to the inner sanctum. And look who's in the center of the room.
Now you're safe.
Danielle, stop!
Adon, what's the matter?
We misinterpreted the signs. The child is not our salvation. He...
A trap!
What's the matter?
Danny!
Get back!
Seems the child that we've been led to believe is the key to everything is just a trap in waiting, actually Oblivion in disguise. Now when I first went up against this boss 10 years ago, I remember my reaction fairly well. Yeah, it may have been that I played Turok 2 so much, my mind built up Oblivion so much that Iguana couldn't compete with my imagination, and I'm just being unfair about this, but that's bullshit. Looking back to Turok 2, when I imagine Oblivion, I picture something in the same vein as the mother. I mean, she was everything that you'd picture as Oblivion, and they didn't even bring her back. She didn't get killed in the previous game. It was a standoff. So why didn't they bring her back and use her as a template to kind of base Oblivion around? But the sad thing is, this thing doesn't even compete with the Primogen. It looks like someone threw one of those small soldier toys in a dryer and just left it on tumble. There's no real design. It doesn't even feel like a world-ending entity. It's just a monster you shoot until it's dead. And that's exactly what you do for the boss fight. You jump over the shockwaves and shoot its weak points. That's it. The weak points, the stomach, and its little fucked up hand. The fight's over. You won. Well, mostly. You have to chase down the slug part, killing the priest along the way. I don't know about these priest dudes, but if I saw my boss plopping past me in the hallway like that, I would just resign, go home, and start looking up a new job. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about your old universe, dude. Just start looking up on Craigslist, because you're going to need a job, dude. We get to the end and, wait, Josh? Didn't you, you know. Turns out that is Josh, but Oblivion is taking him over kind of like the Goa'uld from Stargate. And finally, it's a decent boss fight, no gimmick. It's just straight out. Empty your ammo at this guy, dodge his fire, and it's fun. It's really cool, and it's the final boss fight. All the boss fights up to this point have been a literal joke with some gimmick behind them, but this is just a straight up boss fight. I love it. All good things come to an end. Beat Josh, and we see both Danielle and Joseph destroy Oblivion by holding up the Lightbringer and splitting Oblivion in half, more or less destroying it. And if you think about it, that doesn't make sense. The Lightbringer is a satchel that holds a portion of the Big Bang. Comic book logic, just go with it. It's given to the current holder of the mantle, Turok, which is mostly singular. So if they both have one, they're both Turok. So at the beginning of the game, it didn't matter who you chose. Both siblings became Turok. It just affected who you played as.
Silence!
Okay. Oh, my brain hurts. What's Josh saying?
It was a trap.
No, Danny. There is another child. Your child. The child is yours, Danny. You're pregnant.
It happened just before Brian died. He never knew we were going to have a baby.
He will be special, Danny. Protect him.
No, Josh, please don't go.
Okay. And I did not edit that music in. That was in-game music. Was this supposed to be like a joke ending or something like that?
A few moments later.
No, I double-checked. This is the only ending they made for the game. Well, that was Turok 3, Shadows of Oblivion. With all my bitching and complaining, it's not that bad. It's not the worst Turok game. That goes to a different game altogether. And it's definitely not the worst Turok game put out by Iguana. Again, that goes to a different game. It's the weakest of the three. That's pretty much it. But it does enough right to pique curiosity though. The middle and end are by far the best. I think the areas tying into the previous game are pretty cool. The story isn't half bad, and you can finish the game in an afternoon, whereas the previous games, it would easily take you the better part of a weekend. However, the problems do mount up as you go. The gunplay, for example, doesn't feel as good. Most of the weapons are just weaker versions of the guns from their previous counterparts. Both siblings get a bow, of course, but Danielle gets the tech bow while Joseph gets the storm bow, a crossbow with a scope, which is kinda nifty, but you kinda want the scope on the tech bow. Danielle gets this game's version of the Mag 60, an insult to the original. Listen to Joshua's over Danielle's and you'll know what I'm talking about. It doesn't pack a near enough punch either. They make up for this by giving you more ammo, but I'd rather have less ammo and more stopping power so I can move past enemies instead of just holding that trigger hoping they die. Now Joseph gets a silent pistol, which is useless. Once you kill one enemy, they all know where you are anyway, so it's about as useful as tits on boar hog. The shotgun is okay, no explosive ammo. They make up for this by giving Danielle the fire swarm. It's pretty cool, but I'd rather just have explosive ammo. And then Joseph gets the shredder. Now again, Turok 2 shredder. And here's Joseph's. It doesn't even look like the shredder. It looks like a regular shotgun, but Joseph went ahead and stuck a taser on top of the thing and called it a day. The boar is still all kinds of fun. In the previous game, you could fire multiple drones, but here you can only fire one at a time. So if you're up against the wall and all you got's the boar, you're going to have to wait until the previous drone explodes before you fire off another one. They probably did this for balancing issues, or as I like to call it, being the fun police. You also got your explosive guns like the napalm launcher and other stuff like that. They all operate the same way, just fire them and watch stuff blow up. The grenade launcher is the better of the whole bunch. And then you got the PSG or PMS or whatever it is. It's more trouble than it's worth. When you fire a shell, you're firing a singularity. A little black hole. Sounds cool on paper, right? There's a problem though. The black hole doesn't pick on what it tries to suck in. When you shoot this, it's going to start pulling you toward the singularity. The sad thing is, it doesn't stop bosses. Bosses move like they normally do, so while you're stuck running in place, a boss is going to come up and whack you on the head, giving them a free shot. So what's the point? I don't know why Turok 1 was the only one that could get a BFG done right. I mean, it got progressively worse as the series went. Now, I kind of do like how all the weapons have wear and tear on their models. In the previous game, the grenade launcher was a little too sleek for where it was found at. But here, if you look at the grenade launcher, there's rust and stuff on it, which is a nice touch. You're finding these weapons in spots where they've been left forever, so they're going to show some damage. And maybe that's why they're so weak, because they were literally shoved up somebody's ass. Now, the soundtrack is kind of meh. Iguana couldn't get Darren Mitchell back to compose the soundtrack. Instead, it's awesomeness. You get a generic tribal chant with adventure music, and that's pretty much it. It just doesn't have that same character that Mitchell's work had. I mean, for what it is, it's fine, but that's what it is. It's just fine. The game does have its merits though. If you go through the campaign as both Danielle and Joseph, you get access to 2 more characters to play as, Joshua and a raptor. Their campaigns are the same as the siblings. If you're playing as Josh, you get access to all the weapons. Now the raptor on the other hand, you get some of the weapons, but your movement speed is increased, and plus you get the better melee. So if you want to speedrun this game, this is how you do it. And I also like how under each of the characters you get a little bio. The raptor is my favorite. I do have a theory on why this game had so many changes. The streamlined levels, the campaigns running parallel to one another, the guns not doing as much damage. I think Turok 3 was supposed to have split screen co-op. You know, kind of like Half-Life on PlayStation 2. There's no way to confirm this, but it makes sense. Why is Joseph and Danielle both at the end of the game? Why are they both Turok? Why is everything streamlined so much? But the final question, Are the Nightdive remasters any good? Yeah, in my opinion they are. Nightdive did an awesome job remastering these. They didn't only beef up the look, they even smoothed out the controls too. A lot of quality of life features, making this the best way to play these games. Dinosaur Hunter is largely the same with a few differences in the opening level. The second key is in a different spot. In the original you had to climb up this cliff on the left. In the remaster they made an entirely different area based off of Turok 3. This was here to keep continuity with the third game. But the one thing that Nightdive didn't do was give Talset a crosshair. In the N64, it didn't have no crosshair. You pretty much had to guess where your shots were going. You got used to it after a while, but it would have helped to have a crosshair. There is a way to get around this though. If you turn the map on, your marker you can use as a crosshair because it's the center of the screen. And me and my sister figured this out on the original N64 when we were using that because the time trial had a lot of range shots you had to make. So that little marker made it perfect crosshair. In Seeds of Evil, the objective markers placed on the map can be seen through walls if you're close enough, and this is a godsend in Lair of the Blind Ones. And on that headache note, the fourth level, some of the dead ends were removed out of it. And even if it doesn't seem like it, it was streamlined just a little bit. It's still a headache, but it's nowhere as bad as it was on the N64. They also added a fast travel feature in the rearming portal, so it can zip from a portal you previously unlocked. This makes the end game so much easier. In the original, when you walk through that portal, you start at the beginning of the level. No matter how many times you completed it, you started at the beginning. So if the Primogen key was at the end of the level, you had to walk your ass all the way from beginning to end to get that damn Primogen key. And this is true for Hive of the Mantids, the longest level in the game. Getting that last Primogen key was always a hassle. And I know someone's saying, why didn't you grab the key before you exit out? The talisman for that feather is on the next level, so you have to exit out every time. I tried this on the N64. You can't do it. You have to circle back. And I'm not going to lie, when I was a kid, I used cheat codes when I got to this point just to save time on this. And just a little cherry on top, all the cheat codes from the N64 release work on the remasters. So that big cheat code, you can use it. If you remember what it is, beware for Oblivion is at hand. There's the cheat code. Adon does kind of make you feel guilty for using them though.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. Ay caramba!
Nightdive didn't have to put that in there, but it is a nice touch. I remembered that wasn't there for the N64. I can't say for the PC. So now for Shadows of Oblivion, you had the Easter egg I mentioned before, but they also cleaned up the frame rate issue they had in the original release. When you played this on the N64, when you got to the Oblivion domain, it dropped to single digits in a lot of places, especially with the more flesh eaters coming at you. So should you get the Turok Trilogy? 1 and 2 definitely. If you're into these kind of shooters or if you're trying to go down memory lane, get this. This is the best release for this. 3, if you see it on sale, go ahead, just so you can complete the trilogy. 3 is not terrible. It's a good game. It's just different from the other 2. I recommend you going in with low expectations and you'll be fine. Whew, damn, that was a long one. But that shows you how much I like this franchise. I've been playing this franchise since I was a small kid. I will admit nostalgia plays a lot into this review. Everything I said rings true. I'm not looking at this with rose-colored glasses. In a way, I kind of am, but these were good games at the time. 1 and 2 are really good games, and I'm going to recommend them to anybody. And they're the reason why Acclaim had so much pull in the N64. Too bad I couldn't say the same for the rest of the franchise, which I kind of want to keep talking about, but if I keep going, we're going to be here until Oblivion takes us all. So I'm going to go ahead and close out. Maybe one day I'll cover that game. But until next time, y'all take care. I'm out.
Thank you for watching the video. Both Grouch and myself appreciate it. If you liked the video, please press the like button. And if you would like to stay up to date with the channel, subscribe and ring the notification bell.